What is up, Magic Junkies? This is Dalton Stokes from the Top Deck the Gathering podcast, and we are here today to talk about Outlaw at Thunder Junctions Spoilers Day 2. Now, you may have already seen my co-host Blake's videos on the Day 1 and Day 3 spoilers, so I'm here to talk to you about the Day 2 spoilers. We're a little behind, we're getting our workflow figured out, and I'm excited. We haven't even recorded a podcast episode, but we're coming at you guys live, or I guess not live, recorded, with these spoiler videos. So without further ado and without too much explanation, let's just get right into it. Let's do it. Alright, first up is Desperate Bloodseeker. It is a 1 and a black creature vampire at common 2/2, and whenever it enters the battlefield, target player mills 2 creatures. I feel like we get one of these just about every set now. I like them. I think they're a fun way to play around with graveyard stuff. This also just gives you a solid body for 2 mana to trade off and put another thing in your graveyard in the meantime. I really enjoy the go long, utilize your graveyard strategies that are usually in like black green and sometimes other color pairings. But this is a solid card. Excited to play with it as a common. And keep in mind that Wizards is now that we're in play boosters, they are making a concerted effort to make every single common playable and decent to put in your deck in limited. And also keep in mind, I'm going to be mostly geared towards limited through all these cards, but I will try to talk about some constructed for all you constructed junkies out there as well. So let's move on to our next card, and that is Loan Shark. Love the name, love the flavor. This set is like so far been a pretty big Aeon flavor for me. And I think that's a note that they've been hitting really, really well in the last couple years. Some people may disagree with me. I've heard some chatter that branching out of high fantasy is a little much. But between the cyberpunk, the mobster sets, and now the outlaw western set, I'm totally fine with them branching out and getting into these nice little nooks of pop culture. I just love it. So let's get into Loan Shark. It is 3 and a blue for a 3/4 creature shark rogue. And when Loan Shark enters the battlefield, if you've cast 2 or more spells this turn, draw a card. And it has plot for its same mana cost of 3 and a blue. Love plot. I think it's going to do a great deal to slow these formats down a little bit. Especially after many players are complaining that these last few formats have just been too fast, edging out the control decks and edging out certain strategies that are slower. I think plot's going to do a great deal for that. I think Wizards has already, in their templating for their set and their Nuts and Bolts update, has already said that they're going to slow the formats down with more 6-drops, less 1-drops, etc. So excited to see where this goes, and excited to see where Loan Shark goes as well. If you can plot it, and I mean, you're not going to be able to attack with it up front anyway. If you can plot it and then cast 2 spells the next turn and draw a card off this is pretty solid common. It's not something to write home about, but I definitely think it'll do what it's supposed to in limited. And constructed, probably not going to be playing this card. Alright, and next we have Hard Bristle Bandit. It is 1 and a green for a 1/1 plant rogue, and it taps for 1 mana of any color. And when you commit a crime, you untap it, this ability only triggers once each turn. And so, as a reminder, I'm only going to do this once, but committing a crime is targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyard is a crime. So, let's see what this one's flavor text is. Visitors to the town of Hard Bristle found the locals to be quite prickly. Okay. I like this card a lot. Especially in limited, these cards are kind of bread and butter, and they have been in the last couple years. Especially the ones that tap for any color. It enables the splashes, the 5-color decks, all the things, all the little wrinkles we want to see in a great limited format. And it only brings my excitement up for this set that you get to untap it with some synergies. So I'm hoping to be able to do some nutty things with this. Moving on forward, we've got Hellspur Brute. This is our first uncommon for this day. This one looks like a banger. So it is 4 and a red for a 5/4 Minotaur mercenary, and it has affinity for Outlaws, and Outlaws is a new kind of mechanic, I guess, saying that any creature that is an assassin, mercenary, pirate, rogue, or warlock is an outlaw, and this card has trample. So if you have 4 assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, or warlocks, if you have 4 of those in any combination, this is a 1-drop 5/4 trample. I think in limited, probably your best bet to hope is to play this as a 3-drop. If you're playing it as a 4-drop, I'd say that's pretty much on. That's pretty much like neutral value. And if you're playing this as a 5-drop, it's just kind of bad. I mean, it's not the worst thing ever because it's still a 5/4 trample, but you're not really getting much out of it if you just play it as a 5-drop. So ultimately, this is going to be an outlaw synergy in the kind of aggro-y, like black-red or maybe red-white. I haven't taken too close of a look at how the color pies and the archetypes are split up, but I would imagine this is going to be being slotted into the more aggressive decks. You're not really going to want to be playing a control deck and trading this off. It does have trample, so it wants to attack. So moving straight forward, we've got Resilient Roadrunner. It is 1 in a red for a 2/2 bird at uncommon, and it has haste and protection from coyotes. Okay, that flavor is excellent. So you can also pay 3 mana and have Resilient Roadrunner not be able to be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. So pretty much unblockable. I love the flavor on this card. It's the Resilient Roadrunner. I mean, it dodges the coyotes. It can't be blocked by coyotes or damaged or targeted. I love it, love it, love it. As far as evaluating this as a limited card, it'll be a good aggressive card, just as a 2/2 haste. The protection from coyotes probably not gonna be that prevalent, but we'll see how many coyotes there are in the set. I guess I could see quite a few being there, potentially. So we'll keep on the lookout for that. And the pay 3 ability is also pretty decent because aggro decks want to be able to spend their mana in the late game. So I could see it. Now we have to read this one's flavor text. Chasing the Roadrunner. Port slang for wasting energy on impossible pursuits. That's great. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. Next card is Shoot the Sheriff. Okay, I see what they did there. I see what they did there. There might be a few songs that ring a bell there, or a song in particular. This is 1 and a black for an instant, destroy target non-outlaw creature. And one more reminder is last time I'll do it. Those are assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. This is their low drop, or their 2-drop black uncommon removal spell. Seems like it'll be just fine and limited. Definitely going to be casting some of these when I'm playing black. Alright, now next up is Nomad Possum, and it is 2 and a green for a 3/3 Possum mount, and it has saddle. Now, reminder, you can saddle any number, and that means you tap any number of other creatures you control with total power in or more. This mount becomes saddled until the end of turn, and then you will get the ability that is on the card. So when you saddle Nomad Possum, you can saddle it for 1, meaning you can you only need to tap creatures up to total power of 1. So you can have a 1/1 out there. You can get that 1/1 to saddle up on this Possum Nomad, and whenever it attacks while saddled, it gains +1/+2 until end of turn. Then you may return any number of creatures that you saddled to their owner's hand. So I think what this is telling me is we want ETBs. We want small creatures with ETBs that are cheap to play, and possibly we could get some playing 2 spells in a turn synergies with this as well. I like the saddle ability. It plays a lot like vehicles. I think it's gonna help you. I think it's gonna keep the games from going into board stalls a lot of the time, and I just think it's going to be a pretty fun mechanic to play with, and love the flavor, of course. So let's get to the next card. This is a blue card. It is 2 blue, and we've got another set mechanic to explain. This is Shifting Grift, and it's 2 mana, 2 blue for a sorcery, and uncommon, and it has Spree. So Spree is a set mechanic that allows you to choose 1 or more additional costs, and you get effects. So you could play this for 2 mana and just throw it in your yard, and it does nothing. It's just a sorcery. It just hits the stack, goes to the graveyard. If you just play the blue. But if you're never going to do that, almost, unless you really need cards in your graveyard, and you like for Delve or anything like that, that won't be really that limited applicable. But you pay these additional costs, so +2. You can exchange control of 2 creatures. +1, you can exchange control of 2 target artifacts, and +1, you can exchange control of 2 target enchantments. So say they have, this is a really narrow card. Most of the time I think it's just going to be a 4-drop exchange control of 2 target creatures. You're rarely going to get all 3 of these, but you can make this up to a 6-drop and get all 3 modes on this. Or you can mix and match. You can say they have a busted enchantment, a really busted artifact, and you have scrappy of those 2 types of cards. So you could pay 4 mana and exchange 2 cards, their enchantment and their artifact, and give them your junky ones and take their good ones. I think this is going to be a decent card in limited. Feels more like a constructed sideboard card, but I could definitely see this being a good limited card, just for exchanging creatures. You know, I have a junky 1/1. Here you go. I'll take your bomb. So that is always a good use case. And I don't think this card is going to be super great and limited, but like I said, it'll be good when it's good. All right, so moving right along, we've got Binding Negotiations, and it is 1 and a black for a sorcery at uncommon, and target opponent reveals their hand, and you may choose a non-land card from it. Pretty standard. But if you do, they discard that card. But if you don't, you may put a face-up exiled card they own into their graveyard. So if someone plotted a good card, you can just yoink it straight to the graveyard, and all of that mana they just invested in plotting it is gone. So this is actually really, to me, impressive, because, and I feel like you're going to be, if they have a plotted card, you are going to be doing that 9 times out of 10. Unless it's just something really junky that absolutely will not change your game, and they have like a bomb in their hand. But this just feels like a really, really solid limited card, and I will be very excited to play with it, because I just think it will play really well in this set. I've always liked the Thoughtseize effects. Playing with those in limited is really fun. I think there's something to be said about just taking their bomb out of their hand, but this one having the added buyout of, oh, we get to essentially cancel the mana. I mean, it's essentially a removal spell on creatures that are plotted, because, you know, that's a creature they could have just hard casted instead the previous turn. So that's pretty good. Next up is Prosperity Tycoon. I don't know what that means. I know what it means to be a tycoon of a certain industry, but I don't know what it means to be a tycoon of prosperity. I guess you're just all around wealthy during times of prosperity. I guess that's the gimmick. But it is 3 and a white for a 4/2 human noble, and when Prosperity Tycoon enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token. And this is one of the big tokens of the set. These mercenary tokens all have tap, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate this only as a sorcery. So Prosperity Tycoon also has pay 2 mana, sacrifice a token, and Prosperity Tycoon gains indestructible until end of turn, tap it. So this feels like a Danto Vanguard with extra steps. This card's okay. I think you'll play it in your white aggressive decks. Outside of that, I don't think it's that fantastic. Maybe if, you know, there's a significant go wide plan in the format, or maybe or maybe it'll be good. Maybe I'm just tripping and it'll be good by itself. We'll see. I think this will land closer to being just okay. So next card is we're moving into the gold cards, I think. Or actually, I think I didn't do this slideshow in any particular order this time. So we've got Miriam, Herd Whisperer. It is green and a white for a 3/2 and legendary creature, human druid. And as long as it's your turn, mounts and vehicles you control have hexproof. Whenever a mount or vehicle you control attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. That is incredible. So good. 2 mana, 3/2 by itself. That's good. Gives all of your mounts and vehicles hexproof. Not ward, hexproof. That's insane. So, and then it even has more text after that, which is just wild to me. Giving +1/+1 counters when they attack. This just feels busted. This feels like gonna be a very sought after card in limited. And I'll be excited to play with it. Next up, we've got Mobile Homestead. Love that flavor. It is 2 mana, 3/3, or it is a 2 mana for an 3/3 vehicle, and whenever Mobile Homestead attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it on the battlefield tapped, and it has a crew cost of 2. So if anybody is new to Magic, crew is vehicles come into play as just an artifact, not an artifact creature. Notice how it is not an artifact creature in its type, and so you can pay its crew cost by tapping up to 2 power worth of creatures, and any combination of creatures, and it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So then you'll be able to attack with it and get its attack ability. We've seen cards like this in the past where you can um, attack and look at the top. If it's a land, put it on the battlefield. That always feels really good in limited. And the added bonus of Mobile Homestead has haste as long as you control a mount. Some definite mount synergies there. Looking forward to playing with that. I think this will be a good card in limited. And the fact that it's colorless is going to definitely make it a sought after limited card to play. So I'll be excited to see how this shakes out. Next up, we've got another Spree card. It is caught in the Crossfire, and it is red for an instant with Spree, and so you can pay 1 extra mana, and Caught in the Crossfire deals 2 damage to each outlaw creature, and you can pay another extra mana, and Caught in the Crossfire deals 2 damage to each non-outlaw creature. So you can essentially pay 4 and an instant speed deal 2 to everything. I kind of misread this at the beginning that you could deal 4. You cannot. They are either outlaws or non-outlaws. So it only checks 1 box for the other. If they have a lot of outlaws, you can only pay 3 mana for this and deal 2 to basically all their creatures. But paying the full 4 will deal 2 to all creatures. Yeah, so it's not just opponent's creatures, it is your creatures as well. I think this will be a great limited card, especially since it's an instant. You can really hose your opponent by letting them kind of play cards into you and then board wipe if they're kind of going wide and playing a lot of small creatures. Next up is Fleeting Reflection. Is 1 and a blue for an instant at uncommon, and target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn. It becomes a copy of up to 1 other target creature. Kind of situational. I like giving my creatures hexproof. Usually, I think that's worth about a mana at instant speed, maybe 2, if you get something good with it. I think this probably isn't going to be a Fey fight from the previous set. I don't know if it's going to be quite that good. I think it kind of depends on how bomby this set is. If there are more bombs running around, copying their bomb until end of turn is going to be really good. But yeah, the results of this card are going to vary very heavily on how good the creatures your opponents have are. I guess you can also copy your own creatures, so that is also in the mix as well. All around, this is a good card just because it gives you the ability to give your creatures hexproof, or it's good in the case of your creatures need hexproof, or it's good in the case of you just want to make your creature a bomb, into a bomb. So, like this card, it's definitely flexible, and I definitely think it'll see quite a bit of play in limited. Next card is Lassoed by the Law. Love the flavor again. And it is 4 mana for an enchantment at uncommon. And whenever Lassoed by the Law enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Lassoed by the Law leaves the battlefield. When Lassoed by the Law enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 mercenary token with tap. Target creature gets +1/+0, and activate this only as a sorcery. So, this mercenary token mechanic and paired with the mount mechanic, I feel like is going to greatly reduce the amount of board stalls we see in this format. I think this might be a format that can go long, but these are definitely going to be the kinds of effects that break up those board stalls and allow you to send your 2/2s into their 4/4s and feel pretty decent about it. That being said, this card specifically, pretty good. 4 mana is a little bit much to pay for an exile an opponent's creature spell. And I guess it's a non-land permanent in case they have a pesky enchantment or artifact. But all in all, I'd say this card's just good, not great. It'll always be solid. It'll be bread and butter, especially since you get an added body with it. These cards, I mean, these effects have impressed in the past, but honestly, just like gut check, I think the last iteration of this card is better, and it was common. And when it entered the battlefield, it gave you 2 life. Can't remember the name of the card. Makeshift Binding. And I think I'd just take this being 1 less mana to not get the body and get the 2 life. But we'll see how it shakes out. I could definitely see this taking off in the format if the Go Wide Mercenary plan is really good. So now we go into a card that I am super, super excited about. So this seems to be part of a blue-white theme of not playing any spells on your turn and playing spells instead on your opponent's turn. And so this is Wrangler of the Damned, great name, and it is 3 white blue for a 1/4 human soldier, and that has flash. And at the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, create a 2/2 white spirit token. Let's go! I am super, super, super excited to play this card in Limited. It's been a long time since I've gotten that classic control feel in a limited deck, in a limited color pairing, and I'm really excited about this blue-white theme of not playing spells on your turn. I think current Limited has kind of edged those kind of strategies out because they're so fast. You know, you want to be proactive and play on your turn, and you really fall behind if you just leave up mana to play something on their turn. So this kind of giving you the modality, it has flash, it's a 1/4. It gives you the modality to hold up a counter spell, hold up a removal spell. Wait, maybe you don't need to use those things. If you don't need to use your counter spell or removal spell, you cast this or something else on their turn. And then every turn you're getting that 2/2, 2/2, 2/2. I think this is going to be a bomb if this archetype comes together. I mean, it is really going to make this archetype sing. And now also keep in mind, Wizards has said there's going to be 2 signposts on commons, one of which is just going to be generally good in the color pair that it's in, and then the other one is going to be more in the weeds as far as what that color pair's synergy is, and it's going to synergize deeply with what that color pair is trying to do. Alright, and moving right along, we've got Visage Bandit. We got another one we need a translation for. This is 3 and a blue for a 2/2 shapeshifter rogue, so it is an outlaw, just keeping that in mind. And it says you may have Visage Bandit enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter and a rogue, in addition to its other types. So this it also has plot for 2 and a blue, so you can pay 1 less mana, plot it out, and wait for them to play their bomb, or for you to get a good, or well, actually it doesn't copy their creatures, so can't wait for them to get a bomb. But I think this is a solid card. The fact that you get a mana off by plotting it seems good, and then that also gives you time to play out a good 4-drop. Like you could play the plot this on turn 3, and then play a really good creature next turn, and then immediately play this, and also get your cast 2 spells in 1 turn synergies. So, like this card, not much more to be said about it. Next up, we've got Aloe Alchemist. It is 1 and a green for a 3/2 plant warlock, also an outlaw, by the way, at uncommon. And it has trample, and whenever Outlaw Alchemist becomes plotted, target creature gets +3/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Love this card, and it has plot for 1 and a green as well. Same cost. You don't get a discount for this one, but you get a sweet bonus of giving something +3/+2. This will be a great aggressive card in green. Love to see it. Love to see it. Love to see it. I think they're starting to do a good job of making green a little bit more modal as far as being aggressive and rampy. And I love to see that. Also, small caveat, you can only plot as a sorcery, so keep that in mind. Now, this is, I think, our first equipment. We've got Thunder Lasso. Awesome. I love the flavor. It is 2 and a white for, of course, an artifact equipment at uncommon, and when Thunder Lasso enters the battlefield, you just get 1 for free. You attach it to target creature you control, and equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls, and its equip cost is 2. That ability of tapping one of their creatures is just crazy. I mean, it's not... this isn't an A+, but it is really good. For 3 mana, you get to give your creature a creature that you have +1/+1 and go ahead and swing and tap something. This could be backbreaking in board stall scenarios. All in all, it'll probably play out to be... I can't see this playing out to be bad if you are an aggressive deck. I think this is going to be a card you want to play if you're aggressive, and not otherwise. Next up is Outcaster Green Blade. Interesting name. It is 2 and a green for a 1/2 human mercenary, and whenever Outcaster Green Blade enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land or desert and reveal it. Put it in your hand, then shuffle. Outcaster Greenblade gets +1/+1 for each desert you control. In the shade of his sword, the desert blooms. Huh. Love the art for this card. I don't really know what he's doing out there. I guess he's sowing desert blooms in the sand. And he's an outcast. But like this flavor, like this card, I don't know how prevalent deserts are going to be. It definitely seems like they're trying to push a couple desert synergies, which I love to see. The markings of a great limited format are having lands be picks that are valid. You know, usually in a day-to-day limited format. You know, you pick a land in your draft and you're kind of like, oh man, I really wish I didn't have to do that. But whenever Wizards can make it lands viable picks in limited, I love to see that, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Our next uncommon is Stubborn Burrow Fiend, and it is 1 and a green for a 2/2 Badger Beast mount. So that is a mouthful. And look at that art. That is just wicked. Whenever Stubborn Burrow Fiend becomes saddled for the first time each turn, mill 2 cards, then Stubborn Burrow Fiend gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And it has Saddle 2. This card is actually just a banger. So, just imagining you play this on turn 2, it's not too good. You probably don't have 2 power worth of stuff to saddle with, but on turn 3, you know, you play your 3-drop, you know, you saddle it, and then you start the mill train. And the thing about this card that I like is it's a payoff and an enabler. You know, you mill your cards and you get a bonus for it. So late game, if you're already doing the graveyard thing, the mill yourself thing, I could definitely see this card being good. And early game, it just gets the mill train going. So I super like this card. And I hope to see this specific archetype play out because I do like playing with the graveyard. Okay, next card, next uncommon up is Lively Dirge. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is one in a red or one in a black for a sorcery, with spree, and you can. Its first ability says +1. Search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle. So it's essentially an entomb effect, and then and or +2 and return up to 2 creature cards with a total mana value 4 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this card's okay. I really don't think you're gonna see much optimal limited play out of this card, unless there's some crazy reanimator effects that I don't know about. Because I just think that return up to 2 creatures with total mana value of 4 is just a little weak for 4 um for 4 mana total. It's just a little much. And then if you tack on the search, like, yeah, you're getting an entomb effect, but like what's the upper limit of this card? So you get another 2-drop to match your 2-drop that you have in the graveyard. You know, like, you can only get up to 4 mana with it. So this card alone is can really only search up a 4-drop and get it, like, at the craziest. I mean, or 2-2-drops, or 1 2-drop, and then get 2 back. The ceiling on this card is very low, I think. And I think they did that on purpose because they don't want these effects to be too good. But this just misses the mark in limited. It might be good in some constructed format, but I kind of doubt that too, because I feel like there are more premium effects for less mana at the same rarity or lower. So next card up, we've got Longhorn Sharpshooter. Okay. Whoa. What's going on? Okay. And slideshow's doing whatever it wants. Okay. Longhorn Sharpshooter. So Longhorn Sharpshooter is you get 2, or it costs 2 in a red. Next up is Longhorn Sharpshooter. It's 2 in a red for a 3/3 with reach. And it says whenever this becomes plotted, it deals 2 damage to any target. So you get a shock. It's sorcery speed. And it has plot 3 in a red. So you have to pay a premium to get the shock out of it. But it's essentially a double-sided kind of adventure card-ish. If you know what that is. So and remember, plot says that you pay the plot cost, you exile it face up, and then you get the desired effect that it says on the card, and you get to play it next turn or any successive turn for free. So, you know, there's some synergies to play 2 spells in a turn, like we went over with the Loan Shark. But I like this card. I'm skeptical of it costing 4 mana to deal 2 and give you a 3/3. I think it's a pretty good deal, but I think it could also easily land worse than expected in a format where deal 2 is valued less than some other formats. I think if a higher percentage of the creatures have more than 2 toughness than usual, this card will probably be on average a little worse. But I think the Wizards team has this dialed in, so it'll probably be pretty good. And it has, and it's at worst, it is a 3/3 with reach. I guess I forgot to mention that. So, yeah, pretty decent limited card. Um, Probably not much constructed use that I would think of. Just too much. Okay, so next up is Servant of the Stinger, and it is 1 and a black for a 1/3 human warlock. It has Death Touch, and whenever Servant of the Stinger deals combat damage to a player, if you do, or sorry, if you've committed a crime, you may sacrifice Servant of the Stinger. If you do, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So, if you deal combat damage to a player and you've committed a crime this turn, you can sack it and Demonic Tutor. So it's going to be kind of hard for your opponent to block this. They'll have to trade if they want to allow you, or if they want to stop you from doing that. I mean, or it's a 1/3. If they don't have something with 3 power out there, they're just taking it every turn. And they are at your mercy of when you're going to detute. All in all, I think in limited, Detutor by itself, like if you just threw Detutor into a random limited set, I don't think it's that good on average. I mean, I guess it's get your bomb, but I think you're just loading your cards more and more in limited these days with top tier cards and with play boosters, probably even more so with how they're adjusting the formats. So I think a card like this is kind of just okay, especially. But I suppose the value of this card is its low floor in being a 1/3 Death Touch for 2. So on that, pretty good card in limited. Probably won't see this thing constructed, but you know, stranger things have happened. Next up is Tomb Trawler. It is 2 generic mana for a 0/4 artifact golem, and it has pay 2 generic and put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. So these are effects that are historically pretty fun and limited because if they're good, that means that there is some kind of deck that just is completely willing to jam up the board and wait you out until you draw your deck, and maybe sometimes facilitate that by milling. But by and large, you're just every turn shuffling cards into your deck, and this makes go long strategies really good because actually you don't get a Gravedigger effect, but you're essentially adding good cards to your deck every single turn until the average card quality in your deck is just so much better than your opponents that they're drawing blanks and you are just crushing them. But generally these effects don't work if there's not good go long strategies. So it's kind of up to the format to decide whether this will be good or not. Again, not a constructed card. Better effects like this add way less hoops to jump through. Next up, we've got Unscrupulous Contractor. It is 2 and a black for a 3/2 creature, a human assassin. And when Unscrupulous Contractor enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature. And when you do, target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. It also has plot for the same mana cost of 2 and a black. So I think this card's good. The funny times will be when you nug your opponent for 2 when they're at 2 and they're like, meh. But having the plot, this card having plot definitely makes this effect better because you can line up your sacrifices a little easier. So I like this card okay. I mean, for an uncommon, not that great, but it's pretty good. And at worst it's a 3/2 for 2 with plot. So there's probably going to be some decent synergies going on there. Next up we have Spinewood Armadillo, and this looks cool. This is 4 and 2 green for a 7/7 Reach Ward 3, and it has, you can pay 2 mana to discard Spinewood Armadillo, search your library for basic land or desert, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. You gain 3 life. Let's go. This card is awesome. This card is going to be so good in limited. If you can ramp to this on turn 5, you will feel like you're getting away with so much. Alternatively, it's good in multiples because it has the added out of land cycling, basic land cycling, or desert cycling, plus you gain 3 life. So it fixes you. In my green decks, I'm gonna want like 4 of these, honestly. Like, based on just the one ramp card I've seen, or the one tapper that taps for any color, I'm kind of looking at whether 5 colors gonna be a thing. And I'm wondering if they're gonna have some multicolored deserts out there that are gonna do the job for us too. So this is a card I've got my eye on. Very excited to play it limited. I could see this being good in constructed formats, in standard especially. Yeah, so I'd keep an eye on this card just in general. Oh, and not to mention, we've even got Reanimator synergies there. So I mean, that last card that we had that had, well, no, that could only get 4 drops or less. Wow, that card's bad. Okay, so moving on, we've got Congregation Gryff. It is 1 green white for a 1/4 creature hippogriff mount with flying and lifelink. When Congregation Gryff attacks while saddled, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of mounts you control. With the number of mounts running around, and it seems like green white's theme is going to be mounts, so I think this card's going to be pretty solid. I mean, it's flying, lifelink, and it gets +X for all your mounts, on top of getting or no, it just gives you the saddle ability. Yeah, I forget saddle doesn't actually pump it by itself. But you get like 3 mounts with this thing, and you start cracking it for 4 a turn, it's gonna be over pretty quick. And even if they kill it, you can get a significant life advantage on them, and sometimes that boils down to like 2 or 3 cards. So definitely keep in mind Congregation Group. Next up is at Knife Point. It is 1 black-red for an enchantment at uncommon. As long as it's your turn, Outlaws you control first strike, and again, that is Assassins, Mercenaries, Pirates, Rogues, and Warlocks. And when you commit a crime, you can create a 1/1 mercenary token, and it has that same ability of tap, make something +1/+0 at sorcery. Seems like a decent build around. I'm definitely more excited about some other uncommons than this one. I think this one's a little weaker than the more synergetic ones, but I can eat my words. Black-red could be a like really good go wide strategy where you're making a ton of tokens with this, committing tons of crimes and killing tons of other creatures. I'm definitely watching other uncommons higher than this. Next up, we've got Arid Archway. It is just a land desert, and it enters the battlefield tapped, and when Arid Archway enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. And if another desert was returned this way, you survey 1. So we got a little bit of desert synergies. And I like that. But this land's okay in limited. I can see some constructed things going on with this, maybe in standard. I don't know. In modern, you're definitely not using this in Titan. So I don't know. I don't know where this one's gonna land. Definitely not gonna be taking this highly when the format starts. So next uncommon is Rictus Robber, and it is 3 and 1 black for a 4/3 creature zombie rogue. And when it enters the battlefield, if a creature dies this turn, create a 2/2 blue and black creature rogue. Um, and it has plot for 2 and a black, so 1 mana off. I like this card a lot. I think it will be really good and limited. I can just yeah, no, I mean it really just allows you to plot it and then wait too. So you can play it on turn 3 after you played a 1-drop and 2-drop. And then if they don't block you, you just from then on you just don't cast it, and you just keep casting other things till they have to block you. Kind of looks like this is gonna be a blue black card because they're hinting at um the blue black rogue zombie, but I'm also not sure what a blue black's theme is, so maybe we'll see some uncommons for that coming up. We've got all right, moving on to the rares. We've got Smuggler's Surprise, and it is 1 green mana for an instant rare with Spree, and its first mode is +2, and you mill 4 cards. You may put up to 2 creatures and or land cards from among the milled cards into your hand. So kind of like a mill yourself regrowth kind of effect. Plus we've got +4 and a green, and you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand on the battlefield. Wow. So 6 mana total. You just get to do that. What's neat about this is you get to also add 2 mana to it if you're really like have a lot of like if you draw this in the late game and have a ton of mana, and then you get it's almost like a collected company because you get the top 4 cards, and then you get 2 of those cards if you want them onto the battlefield because you can put them into your hand. Yeah, no, I like this card a lot. So it's essentially a 7 mana collected company for creatures of any size if you want it, and it has the added modality on top of it. And we haven't even gotten to the third ability, which is creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So it's also just a save my entire board spell from a board wipe that does an exile and spot removal and multi-spot removal. This card's excellent. And this card's excellent. I will be very excited to play with this card. I hope I get to cast it for the 7 mana baddie collected company. I'll be really excited for that. Next rare is Outcast Trailblazer, and it's 2 and a green for a 4/2 human druid. And it says whenever Outcaster Trailblazer enters the battlefield, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Whenever another creature with power 4 or greater is a battlefield under your control, draw a card, and it has plot for its same mana cost of 2 and a green. This card's just a banger and a half. You get to store up a mana to play a 5-drop on turn 3. You get to cast one of those crazy ramp payoff spells that we've seen in the past few minutes a turn earlier with this if you just save it, on top of the fact that it rewards you for playing those giant creatures by drawing you a card when they come in. This card is an absolute banger. Just really, really good. Love the design. Really gonna be really fun to play with. Next rare, we've got 3 Steps Ahead. It is 1 mana for an instant and another spree card. Its first mode is you add 2 mana, 1 in a blue for counter target spell. So just its top mode is just straight up cancel. Standard limited counter spell. And then for +3 mana, creature tokens that create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control. So you get to. So this is kind of looking like a what's it called? That blue 6-drop from years and years ago that is crazy. It has the tons of modes and copies I forget the name of it for some reason. But you can also pay +2 mana to draw 2 cards and discard a card. That mode I'm less excited about, but it's also 3 mana to do that if you don't have anything else to do with this card. This card's freaking excellent. Like, so I was talking about the don't do anything on your turn. What's it called? Archetype, and this is going to be fantastic in that archetype. You know, you've got anything you would really want to do at instant speed on one card that you can just hold up mana for in various ways. Like this, I'm going to be very excited to play with this card. Next up is a blue-red rare. It is Malcolm the Eyes. Not with the eyes, not of the eyes. Interesting. It is blue and red for a 2/2 legendary creature Siren Pirate with flying and haste. And whenever you cast a second spell each turn, investigate. Love this card. Feels like just a solid card to just slot straight into blue-red if you're playing it. And limited, and yeah, I mean, getting that added investigate, like, just icing on the cake. Honestly, I'd run this if it didn't have that ability, just a 2/2 haster in the air. I mean, that's just excellent. Next up, we've got Seraphic Steed. It is a green and a white for a 2/2 with first strike and lifelink, and whenever it attacks while saddled, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying, and it has saddle 4. Yeah, this deserves to be a rare. It's very good. The saddle 4 is probably not going to come up as much as you'd want it to, but when it does, it's going to be very good. Especially in board stall scenarios. I mean, I guess you're probably going to be attacking this into a brick if you're board stalled. So, but first strike and lifelink on it, just 2-drop 2/2 is pretty good. So, all in all, this card's gonna be pretty good and limited. Next up, we've got Vadmir, New Blood, and he is 1 and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature, Vampire Rogue. Whenever you commit a crime, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadmir, New Blood. This ability triggers only once each turn. And as long as he has 4 or more counters on him, he has Menace and Life Link. That's a beating. They're just throwing around Life Link. I mean, I guess you gotta jump through some hoops to get there, but you'll be very happy to pick one this. 3 Strider Lookout. It's a 2 and a green for a 3/3 with human rogue with reach, and whenever you commit a crime, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, but put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This ability triggers only once each turn. Wow, that's a mouthful. So it's a 3-drop 3/3 reach, already good. You'd probably play that in most of the time. And whenever you commit crime, you get to look at the top 5 and put a land on the battlefield. Yeah. And the rest on the bottom in a random order. But you only get to do it once each turn. So yeah, I had to re-go through that in my head because it was so wordy. Text on modern Magic cards is just so long these days. But this is a good card. You'll be pretty happy. I mean, I don't know how much you're going to be committing a crime in green, but I'd imagine that they made this card pretty triggerable, or they wouldn't have put it in. So I think it's going to be good. Next one up is Bonnie Pal Clear Cutter. Welcome to Flavortown, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Clear Asajj to Paul Bunyan. I love what they did here. It is 3 green, blue, blue. So 6 mana total for a 6/5 legendary creature, Giant Scout with reach. Already by itself pretty good right there. And it has whenever Bonnie Powell enters the battlefield, create Bow, a legendary creature Ox token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. So if you're not casting this, if you're hard casting it with no ramp, you already have 6 lands, so that Bow token is a 6/6. So you're getting a 6/5 reach and a 6/6 for 6 mana. That's insane already. And whenever you attack, draw a card, then you may put a land from your hand on the hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. This card is all types of messed up. I will be casting as many of these as I can in limited. Love, 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 love it. Love the flavor, love the effect, love the design. All around, one of my favorite cards on the set so far. Next up, we've got Bruce Tarl of Roving Rancher. He's 2 red, white for a 4/3 legendary creature, human warrior, with oxen you control have double strike, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile the top card of your library. If it's a land, create a 2/2 white ox creature token. Otherwise, you may cast it until the end of turn. Or the end of your next turn. Wow. Yeah. So it gives all your oxes double strike. So I'm guessing red white might have a little bit of oxes in it, hopefully. I haven't been paying attention to that, I don't think. But so, yeah, getting to exile the top of your library, and get paid out if you get a land anyway, on top of being able to cast it until next turn, like, that's just great. This card's great. Just on that ability alone, and I'm sure you'll make a few oxen double strike, and it'll be even more worth it. Love to see these tricolor cards. Next up, we've got another legendary creature, Riku of Many Paths. This one is a 3/3, and it says whenever you cast a modal spell, so any of the spree spells, choose up to X, where X is the number of times you chose a mode for that spell. So you can choose up to all 3 modes if you cast all 3 modes on one of your spree cards. So there's a spree payoff for teamer decks. So I could definitely see pack one pick winning this and just building around it, because these abilities look pretty busted. First off, we've got exile the top card of your library until end of the next turn. You may play it. So that's the red ability, I'm guessing. And then put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains trample. That's the green ability. And then create a 1/1 bird creature token flying. That's the blue ability. This card's really good, especially if you get a lot of sprees. If you don't, it's just a 3/3 for a really complicated mana cost. So you definitely gotta build around this one to make it good. But I love this card design, love the art. I'll be really excited to play this in limited. And maybe construct it if it's good. I could see this kind of card being good because there's a lot of modal cards in Magic, so there might even be a way to bust this somehow. I don't know. Well, I guess there's not that many crazy. Yeah, no. So next up, we've got Helen Joins Up. It is all 3 Bant colors, so green, white, blue, for a legendary enchantment, and so you can have more than one. And it says when Kellen joins up, enters the battlefield, you may exile a non-land card with mana cost value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. So you just plot a 3-drop or less from your hand for nothing. Or, well, for 3 playing this card. And it says whenever a legendary creature enters a battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So far, it seems like there's a lot of legendary creatures going around, so I have a feeling this card's going to be pretty awesome when you can play it and build around it. So, love this card. Like the design, like the art, like that it's a legendary enchantment. Love to see those. Kind of spices things up a little bit. Next up is a Grixis card, and it's Merkessa, Dealer of Death. She's blue or blue black red for a 3/4 legendary creature, human rogue, and whenever you commit a crime, you may pay 1 mana, 1 generic. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand and the other in the graveyard. Whew. So this turns all of your removal spells in Grixis colors into look at the top 2 and put one in your hand and the other in the graveyard. So it not only fuels your graveyard, but it gives you card advantage and card selection on all of your removal spells. Decks that want to go long in Grixis, I will definitely be trying to build around this in at least once in this format, probably several other times. Next up, we've got Roxanne, Starfall Servant. More legendaries. She's 3 red green for a 4/3 legendary creature, cat druid. And whenever Roxanne Starfall Savant, did I say servant? It's Starfall Savant enters the battlefield or attacks, create a tapped colorless artifact token named Meteorite with when Meteorite enters the battlefield, deals 2 damage to any target and add 1 mana of any color to your mana. It taps to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Meteorite, I think, is a 6-drop. And you're just getting 1 spotted to you when it enters or attacks. That seems so good. And whenever you tap an artifact token for mana, it doubles the mana. So this card is just flat busted. Busted in half. Bomb.com. Nothing more to say about it, really. Flavor's awesome. Love that you get a Meteorite. This card's going to be so fun to play with. Next up, we've got just mono white rare. Interesting how the 3 color or the triple colors preceded a monocolor. But I'll probably work out the ordering of this in the next video. So this one is Aven Interrupter. Almost said Interpreter. So this one is Aven Interrupter, and it's 1 and 2 white for a 2/2 bird rogue with flash and flying. And when Aven Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted. Spells your opponents cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. That card's awesome. That card's really awesome. I could see this being good in some constructed formats. Even in some Eternal formats, maybe. As like a sideboard card against very specific play patterns. But yeah, this card's gonna be really fun to play with in limited. I think it'll be really good because you just get to. It'll be good in like any white aggressive deck where you're trying to disrupt your opponent quickly and get a body that'll get in damage. I mean, it'll deal 2 a turn, probably unhindered from turn 3 for a while. There's some incidental reach cards in the set so far, but this card's pretty solid. Next card is Step Between Worlds. Love the name. It is 3 and 2 blue for a sorcery rare And it has plot for 6, 4, and 2 blue. And it says each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard in their library. Each player who does draws 7 cards. Exile, step between worlds. Don't love that this exiles. It's not like this is the most busted iteration of this card ever printed. I don't think it was gonna break any kind of constructed formats if it didn't have that. And it definitely wouldn't have broken any limited formats if it didn't say that. So honestly, I wish that it didn't say exile it, but here we are. I like this card a lot. I hope this is a good card in limited. I'd be looking for ways to make this more asymmetrical. Like playing a lot of early drops, I guess, and like emptying your hand before your opponent, and then playing on turn 5 to refill. But I don't know. I think this card's going to be just okay in limited. I hope it's good in standard though. That might be a standard deck that I'd play. Next up, we've got a reprint, and we're getting into the mythics. This is Archangel of Tides, and this was originally printed, I believe, in Magic Origins. It is 1 and 3 white for a 3/5 angel with flying, and as long as Archangel of Tithe is untapped, creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless they pay 1 for each of those creatures. So you get kind of like a pacifism effect, or not pacifism. What's that card called? Propaganda effect. And as long as it is attacking, creatures can't block unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. So it just taxes them at both ends, whether they're attacking or blocking. The card's excellent. Bomb.com. It's going to be a little hard to cast, but I think it'll, in like a 2-color deck, it'll probably play more like a 5 or 6 drop. You'll probably be able to cast it by 5 or 6. 4 if you, sometimes if you're lucky, or if you build your deck correctly, with a really heavy white slant. Or, there might be viability for mono white in this format, so I'd look out for that as well. Next up is another reprint. It's Terror of the Peaks. This card is excellente. It is 3 and 2 red for a 5/4 flyer with spells your opponent cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast. So already, like, you just play this, they remove it, they get lightning bolted in the face. That's a pretty good buyout for just losing your 5-drop bomb that, if it doesn't die, it gets insane upside. And here's the other insane upside on top of being just a 5/4 flyer for 5. You get, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to the creature's power to any target. So you can hit their face, you can hit their biggest creature, break up combat. This card's insane. Might be the best card that I've seen so far, barring maybe the Planeswalkers. But I will be looking to pack one, pick one this card, and go into red-green and cast some really big stuff, and dome them in the face for lots of life. So I'm very excited to cast this card coming up. And that concludes this video. That is our last card. So really looking forward to the set. Love the flavor. Love a lot of the cards in it. I like the set mechanics so far. I think this is gonna be a pretty solid format moving forward. I'm excited to move on from MKM and on to this one for sure. So see you guys in the next video, where I'll be talking about day 3 spoilers. You guys can check that out coming up on YouTube very soon. And always remember, stay frosty.